righty. Well, I guess we should get ready to go here. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Thanks for showing up. It's kind of a little strange for me doing this because I can't see anybody. Not only can I not see you, you're not actually there. This is a couple of days later. So we're going to roll right on through this. And getting down to it, when I was asked to chat about coaching technique at U16, I was thinking about, okay, what am I going to do here? Had kind of all these ideas go through my head and putting physics with biomechanics and that. And then little did I realize, number one, I don't have the doctorate to do that. And I don't have the computer skills to do that. And then we also have people such as Robbie Reed coming in, and that is kind of their job. So I'll try not to steal their thunder and go to more just strictly what we know about. And then thankfully, Mike sent out to the program director's chat a nice little slideshow talking about all technique and everything. I thought, oh, my Lord, what's the point of doing this? And then I realized it gave me a little inspiration from what I saw from it. Because, fortunately, Mike let me steal a couple of pictures because I still needed some pictures for my presentation. But I was really wondering, okay, what are we going to present about? What's new? And as I'm going to share my screen here a little bit because we go to some slides that I was starting to work with and share. And what's new? And we got all these fancy terms here, starting it off. Ankle athletic ready position, ankle flexion, shin pressure. We have all these terms. They're not new. What are we going to do that's new? Then I remembered a couple of years ago at, I believe it was a fall meeting, Elias presented some video with the Canadian team skiing in places such as Hintertux and Solden and skiing on the steepest, iciest, turniest courses. And I was excited at that meeting because I really wanted to watch how these guys were committed to moving to the outside ski, how they're committed to their shin pressure, how they're committed to those fundamentals. And the questions I heard people asking were about the stivot. How are they working the timing of the stivot? How do you teach the timing of the stivot? And I was kind of blown away because we were missing exactly what the presentation kind of was for, was how they're still committed to those basic fundamentals, outside ski and shin pressure and that. And I started wondering, well, what is new? Nothing is new. And should we be doing something new? And then I got inspired a little bit by the movie A Flash of Genius. I don't know how many people have seen it. I won't go too in depth on the movie, but I was inspired by the last courtroom scene where he's in patent court. And I believe he's describing the book Gone with the Wind. And he brings up the first sentence and describes each word in the first sentence individually. And his point is that the words aren't new. They're not new to anybody. The author didn't invent the words, but it's in the order that the words are written. It's in how the words are used that made Gone with the Wind what it is. And it started to make me realize, how we interpret our LTAD from ACA, what's written in it, and how we use these terms here, athletic ready position and that, and how we, talk about the center of mass moving across the fall line and moving in the direction of motion, moving with the skis throughout the turn. And it really let me know that it's not anything new. You folks at this meeting should all know this, that I want to tell you that. If we don't, we have to go back to a bit of a remedial, but I'm not going to present anything new. What I would like to do is share with people how at TIE U16, we coach with the long-term athlete development from ACA, how we interpret, how we put it in. A few small words can make a great sentence. How we take a few small things and we can put it in to make something great for ourselves. So I'm going to explain how we at TIE interpret the LTAD a little bit, how we create our focus, and how we work through this. And so what does the LTAD say to us? We're in a train-to-train phase of learning. And I've kind of readapted that with our program, because if I left the kids alone to train, they wouldn't even know how to start training to begin the train. So I kind of put us, we're still in a learn to train. And hopefully by the end of U16, they're really able to actually act on train. And what is U16? Well, we're still in a process of learning, but process learning as opposed to results learning. And FIS, results performance, really starts to take place, or precedence, but it's from this process. That's important. And so we're in an area where, quote, we can't fake the fundamentals, because what happens when we fake the fundamentals? We're not in process learning anymore. We're performance-based without a process. We're no longer in a train. So that's how we approached coaching with the LTAD at TIE in U16. And what happens when you fake the fundamentals? Well, these are common things we see. Faking the fundamentals. You're on the easiest path to success, promoting false speed, the easiest way to create angles. We see the hip dump. We see the foot split. You know, we could talk a lot about this, but the reality is, and why does this happen? Again, it's nothing new talking about the process. We're in a process orientated phase. Why do we keep finding these at these levels? From all the levels I've worked at, we always say, the people below us are not teaching properly. Then I go to another level below and I say the same thing about the people below, and so on. And we have to realize that while we as coaches all along the way are coaching a process, athletes themselves, they're a little bit more results based. They need to feel results. They want to win. They want to do well. And they want to, feel it. That's how they learn. So, and these things such as the hip dump, the, inside C push, it is the quickest way for young athletes to feel a nice shape ski carve. It's the quickest way for them to feel pressure through the turn. And, if you're a young, bigger kid, it can be the quickest way to find some results and win some races. But it is also the quickest way to a plateau that we find. So how does this work? We really have to figure out as coaches, if they're results-based, we're process-based, how do we meld the two together? How do we create the results that we want in our process? And that's really what this is going to focus on a little bit. And as we go through this again, I'm not going to bring out new technique. I really just want people to think about, are they creating a goal in your process? Do you have an outcome, or do you have an intended outcome? And how do you go along to create that intended outcome where the athletes feel the results guided towards that outcome? So in our process, what do we want? I have this slide coming up again, but basically outside ski pressure, shin pressure are one of those words we all know, athletic stance, maintaining shin pressure through the turn, and carving top to bottom through a variety of terrain. That's our intended outcome through U16. And in preparing people to perform through the process, what really are we looking for? I got to go to my slides. I want to create autonomy within the athlete. All right. What does that mean? That means making sure the athlete is in charge of their program, where they have ownership of the program. Acquire self-reflection skills, self-analysis. This creates autonomy in their own coaching, allows them the ability to self-coach, and work on decision-making skills. The decision-making skills, if they have, from the previous slide, outside ski, shin pressure, carving, it's the decision-making skills that are going to allow them to reach in their bag of tricks, basically a bag of fundamentals, and perform on demand. And that's creating autonomy, giving them decision-making areas. So that's that's how we prepare. We work on these three points to prepare them for FIS. And how do we apply this with the train-to-train grouse Tai while on the hill? Well, we teach them the fundamentals. We challenge the fundamentals in an environment on decision-making level. We progress more from a pattern style of learning to the random learning style, where again, it challenges them to reach into their bag of tricks, pull out the fundamentals that we've worked on them with, and use it for performance on demand, but through a process, right? We have to create that process. We create more race environments, race intensities, race pressures, where we strive to do that. So they're learning in the environment they're going to be expected to perform, and they'd be comfortable at it. It takes the pressure away, takes the intensity away. And then also the decision making. While we work with decision making, our decision making has to really be related to the task that's intended. You know, it can go astray sometimes if those two aren't related. You can create decision making that they're not ready for, or decision making that they've done a lot. So again, it's pretty simple. You're going to talk about some small things, but as I said, you know, a few small words individually are nothing big, but put together can be something special. So that's all the thought I want to really reach out and hope you guys start thinking about as you look at this, look at how you do your program, and how you start to jot down your goals for your program, and how you strive towards them, and how you work with an athlete that is a little more results based in a program, an area with coaches that we are process based, and how you can meld those two together. That's really the importance of what we're looking for here. And so where are we? What have we done here? Well, we've created a race environment. What better way to do this? Use what you have. Fortunately, thanks, Mike, at Grouse, we got a 3-time Olympian within our team, or we had. Lucky for Whistler, but create a race environment. You know, races when there's a 3-time Olympian involved, great guy to have around, put him in, and that changes the environment right there. Use what you have. We created a lot of last year was actually a pretty interesting year because we didn't race, but it gave all of us, and listening to the talk around the province, an idea to get creative and change that up and really create environments. And what are you going to keep into this year? How are you going to keep it and create the outcome that you're intended? So I just thought I'd put in a bit of a slide here, change things up and give people things to look at. Maybe Mike can have a little bit of a chuckle because we miss you, Mike. So yeah, I've talked about intended outcomes, technical and tactical. And like I said, we use the word intended at Tai because no matter what happens, there's going to be an outcome. That outcome is going to depend on the appropriate focus and then the execution of said appropriate focus. And as I've mentioned before, prepare the athletes for FIS. What is our technical intended outcome? Well, we want to ski on the outside ski. There's no new science to this. We need to ski on the outside ski. We can watch World Cup video from the top. They're skiing at the outside ski. Shin pressure. We need shin pressure. You know, that's what's going to make the tip come back into the turn, start giving the ski the chance to accelerate. I could use some big turns and deflecting back into change of direction, whatnot. We need shin pressure, maintain shin pressure through the turn. And overall, what's this going to help us to do? Carving, top to bottom, in a variety of terrain, not just on a simple free ski run. We want to be able to do it in a variety of terrain through the courses. We can create this. We can send them to FIS, and through this process, they will now be ready to have the ability to perform because of the process. You know, that's what we have to sell them on. We have to have the process geared to create these outcomes, and we have to give them a chance to feel the results and those outcomes in our environment. So that process, they're working through the process. What do we have here? I was going to put some World Cup photos up there trying to describe those last slides. And I figured we're coaching U16. Why not put up U16? So I pulled up a photo I had on my laptop, fortunately, because those are the only skills I have. And we got a U16 athlete here. Outside ski pressure? I believe so. Shin pressure? Definitely shin pressure driving through there, resulting in carving. Yeah, at least that's the end goal when you combine the two. Now I could go back to that first slide and talk about our fancy terms, but everybody knows them. Athletic stance, yep. Separation, yep. Shoulders level, ankle flexion, that. But really, we need three terms, and outside pressure, shin pressure, carving. How we take those other smaller terms and add them in to create this, that's really the art of coaching. That's beyond the science. That's our art of coaching, which is we'll leave the science to the scientists, the people with their doctorates, which I do not have. The people that spent years collecting data to put physics together with biomechanics. But the end result, I think this is all right. Outside ski pressure, shin pressure, it's going to equal a little bit of carving. So technical outcome, how, this is more all of us. This is important for all of us on the hill. Watch each other, chat with each other, see what we're doing, but creating an outcome and having the right process to do it. So when we work on outside ski, at Tai, simple, everyone can chit chat and start throwing out some ideas and expand our bag of tricks. But we do a lot of one ski skiing, one ski rollerblade turns, power plow, skating drills, do power plow on the course a lot. It's a great way for them to vision the actual intended line where they cross the rise line, everything. And, one skiing on course, we work on a lot of that. Carving, how do we work carving? Rollerblade turns, one ski carving, free skiing, focus line markers on a course that take away decision making and force the carving, allow them to carve. And how we work on shin pressure, power plow on off course, a lot of speeds, a lot of jumping work. One skiing, we focus on a transition, and a lot of slow skiing, steering the ski, feeling where the hip is throughout. A lot of slow skiing there. Nothing new. I hope people can add to this, give me some more ideas, but just understanding, even at U16, you can't fake the fundamentals. You got to go back to these original things, these simple ways of skiing. Okay, and what I have here, a simple video just to demonstrate what we do. It's a little bit of rollerblade skiing. With it, we can see, we can ask ourselves, is there some shin pressure? Yep. Is there some carving? Yep. Is it outside ski? I can start to fade a little bit. And then we can say, okay, is this getting the outcome I wanted? No, go back. Okay, maybe we need the body to transition a little bit more with in the direction of travel, simple. But this was just an example of what you have. We got some flat terrain, going back, doing some basic rollerblade turns. Change it up, throw a little video in there. And then our tactical outcomes, what are we looking for? Understand line interpretation and its importance. It's not just understanding line, it's being able to interpret it. And adapting our line in varying rhythms and terrain. It sounds simple, but it's it's an everlying goal. And I think even at the World Cup, they're fine tuning work in that, and that's making the difference. And this all just comes down to, as I've said earlier, decision making skills. The more we can train the decision making skills, the more you can have performance on demand. You can pull your fundamentals out of your bag of tricks and use them and add them into what we're doing. So I hope as we're doing this, everybody's just, every now and then close your eyes, imagine your program, think about your program, what you've written down, your directions, and just adapt and get some ideas of the outcomes you're intending and the process. It's the process leading toward the intended outcome. And that's all we're really chatting about here. So moving on, how we work tactical outcomes and decision training skills. Well, in free skiing, we free ski everywhere. That's the idea when we can anywhere. Moguls, trees, ski on piste, ski off piste, video the turn shape so they can see the line. They can see that sort of stuff. On course, a lot of I probably have 90% of my courses, our courses, set with markers of some sort, setting random rhythms, varying terrains. And I even add varying colors in there. I set random colors, and they're only allowed to crosswalk certain colors. They got to look ahead. They got to think, and they got to really start, their decision-making skills really work ahead of them, and allows them to start creating some more performance on demand, using the skills, the fundamentals that they have to create this performance on demand. So nothing new, nothing special, just how we use it is what's going to make it special. It's going to stimulate hopefully some thoughts, some discussion there, just what my intended outcome is for this presentation, essentially. Here, thanks, Mike. I kind of took this from your presentation because I was looking for some line ideas, but we have varying lines here that we can chat about, and at first everyone's hopefully gonna be looking at which one we should be skiing. But the reality is, in decision making, depending on what the gates are above and the gates are below, any of these lines may be the correct line. Maybe the feet might be a little close in the blue there, but any of these lines may just work. So the decision making really is not based on one gate, which is why I didn't have the rise lines here. You have to cross here. You have to take your apex, so you turn this far. Again, using big words that we know, but words that really we just have to adapt in our process, understand our outcome, understand the process leading to the outcome, create that process. So we get intended outcome. And here would be the outcome, depending what line we need to create in our decision making. We need to set courses appropriate to create said line. But that was just a little bit of a trick in there. I'm sure everyone was pointing out which one they liked and realized, depending on the gates before and the gates after, either which one of them works. But the decision making that we install in the athletes is going to allow them to vary those lines instead of being stuck just on one, making it work. But we want them to build variant. We want them to be able to ski all four of those colors there, depending on how the course is actually set. And if we think back to our athletes, an athlete that's maybe splitting the feet, dumping the hip a bit, they're more going to be stuck on those yellow and blue lines and working from there. Some athletes, they see the line a little bit differently, a little bit safer, and get stuck on the old the purple one there and aren't really able to adapt that. So we want to create all of those in there, depending on what's set above and what's setting below, creating those decision making skills. So that's those are some of the things we work with, and I'll have a couple more slides to change up some view here. So what do I have set here? I want to change it up. Drills people see quite often. I have set, for a tactical outcome here. We saw earlier a bit of a technical outcome with the video of the rollerblade turns. This is set for a tactical outcome. Line marker above the stubby here. Actually have it set a little bit outside the rise line. We like to actually create more of the shape coming back to the gate. I find when it's in the rise line, they can still get the shape of the turn wrong. But this drill, it is even though it's tactical, it's a little less decision making. It's a little more connected dots, which creates a turn shape for them. And in doing so, they're allowed to feel. If we've learned new fundamentals, they're allowed to feel how that now works in the line. They've always seen the line from how they skied before and how they see it. They see it the same, but it skis in a certain turn shape, and how to apply their fundamentals, how to apply their outside ski, their shin pressure, and i.e. the carving through that turn shape with less decision making here because it's a little more connected dots. They can make mistakes at first and hopefully it rounds out. But how does this lead into decision making and changing and challenge in random learning? My course below, if I could zoom in a little bit more with my computer, you can see I have the gate set, the brush set below the stubby, again a little bit outside the rise line, thus creating turn shape again, but from a different point of view. Point of view that they have to not just connect dots, so they're not able to feel their technique as much, but they have to create decision making. They see the turn shape from the gate above or 2 gates above and have to start really relying on their bag of tricks to pull out and bail to perform on demand to create the turn shape. Here they're creating the turn shape, whereas the focus before the turn shape was dictated to them. So both tactical outcomes, one, increasing the decision-making process when they're ready for the increased decision-making process. So that's all about having an outcome, but using an appropriate time process to create the outcome we're looking for. So, and again, people have seen this drill before, but using it again in the right order of that right sentence to make something great. And this is just an example of what we do. I probably set stuff like this 80% of the time with we do it with our team and really working on the decision making. You know, outside the course, we really work the fundamentals. Inside the course, decision making, some tactics, some course allow for technical outcomes. Most of them for tactical or decision-making outcomes, appropriate leveled outcomes. So leading with that, we have different types of learning we work through. It's important, you know, we've all heard this, but do we think about it much on the hill when we create our program, when we create our daily training plan? You know, when we're doing drills, it's a real pattern type of learning. And it's because we're introducing brand new feelings, breaking boundaries, breaking barriers in awareness of what our bodies can do, what our skis can do, what we can feel in our boots. So we tend to use a little more pattern training in that. And then we challenge them, free skiing, random training. We challenge these new feelings, create decision-making awareness with these new feelings so they're able to adapt them. And then in the gates, we work on, it's again, random training, working on the performance on demand to be able to pull those new skills, those new feelings out of their bag of tricks to use them to create turn shape, to create speed, to create pressure, challenge them in all varieties of areas. So it's important to understand the type of learning we're trying to achieve here to create our outcome, the process of learning. So that's what we at TIE talk about and think about when we put our program, our daily training plan together, our yearly training plan together. When we have our outcome, our intended outcome, what is our process creating that intended outcome? And how is that working with the kids too? If I go back to the screen below, I spoke about self-analysis. I spoke about athletes being results-based. Well, when you create put obstacles in there, it gives them an instant feedback. They find a result. It's important for us to create our outcome by them feeling the results gearing in that same direction. And if you're not making the brush, if you're hitting the brush and skidding out, you have an instant feeling, you have an instant result, success ratio, and that has to lead into the direction that we're focused in. And we don't even have to coach them too much because I don't want to talk much technique, line interpretation, creativity, decision-making, where they're seeing the decision-making. In the course itself, the brushes are going to dictate their success and how they're doing. We can guide, so that's how we at TIE plan our day. Then we get into course setting, for all this. And course setting, course settings, in my view, is what will do the teaching. A course will give you the best feedback and it will show the outcome. Again, as I said, intended outcome, because there will be an outcome no matter what you do as a coach. There will be an outcome, but is it the intended outcome? So when we plan our day, our course setting, are we setting for a technical outcome or a tactical outcome? There are some varying philosophies or whether a course is only tactical and whatnot, but depending how you work a course, you can have a technical outcome. Ways that we do that, impossible flush or picket fence. You're not working on tactics, you're working on, I can explain it a bit, but we're working on technique. Paneled slaloms where we can't shin the gate. We don't have to think too much about what's in front of us, just getting our whole body, our whole feet around it. You can start working technique, stubbies and markers with line markers, creating the shape of the turn already, connecting the dots. The line is forced there, so our decision making is less, and we can think about how we're actually doing it. And on tactical setting, how we put our line markers in to create the decision making, varying the line markers, not necessarily every gate. So creating the decision making, varying rhythms. So there has to be decision making all the way. Duels create a whole different sense of, whole different outcomes, sense of view for the athlete, sense of focus. And number one, that's challenging decision making and challenging your tactics. In duels, I wouldn't even talk technique at all, because it's all about how they deal with the outside distraction and how they trust the process of their fundamentals and what they've learned. Duels with line markers in one course versus the other course, so we can get intended results. The line marker is more successful. No line marker, you're going to see a lot more DNFs maybe. But how we set that up. So when you're setting, not just setting the purpose, but understanding, is it a technical outcome you're looking for? Is it a tactical outcome? And that dictates how we set, really, And so hopefully, I think I've got a couple examples here. Let's see where they are. Yes, here. So we got just a simple example of a technical focus on our course setting. It would be an impossible flush and working on carving, working on shin pressure through there. And that is the intended outcome. And we had some success. The athlete felt some results there for sure. So the outcome was a technical process, looking for a technical outcome. And I think we both had the results we were looking for. How can I change that? Okay, you're still keeping a technical focus without patterning. I can go to the next one and can lift up the inside ski and doing this one ski. So we're still working a technical outcome. They're outside skiing and carving. Definitely makes it a little more challenge. Yeah, I think the athlete felt a result. Whether the result was 100% the intended outcome, but with that result the athlete felt, I think they can keep gearing their process towards the intended outcome, which is having outside ski pressure, shin pressure to be able to carve the ski. So that's an example of how I would set, looking for technical outcomes and technical results for the athlete too. And when I move on here, I have an example of how we set with a tactical purpose. People have seen this. You got the two stubbies. The upper stubby represents the rise line. The lower stubby is the gate. And then I got a brush. Again, so going back to the slide I had earlier with the brush below the gate, the upper gate stubby, while it represents the rise line, how high above that rise line they cross the rise line depends on the shape they need created from the stubby below or the brush below. So this is, again, they have to view this now, not just by connecting the dots, by their decision-making skills from the previous gates above and also where the gates are after. It really creates the decision-making skills and lets them see an awareness of where the rise line is, where they cross the rise line to create turn shape needed to have the intended result. Okay, and then there will be the athlete will feel a result, whether they make the brush or hit the brush and skid out because of the brush, or whether they make it clean. Whether they're able to dig in their bag of tricks, their fundamentals to create the intended shape, to feel a result and the result intended for the outcome we're looking for. And in doing so, it's actually frozen on a pretty good one, because I think we have some outside ski pressure, we have some shin pressure, and we have some carving. And again, with this, is like to say, that position, us coaches at Tyee didn't coach this at all. This result, our courses did. We set the process, we set the intended outcome, we set the process gearing for such intended outcome. The course, the athlete They created this themselves. So that's an example of tactical setting that we do, and we do quite a bit of. All righty. And so, the outcome summed up, technical, what outcome do we want? We want to be able to maintain shin pressure. We want to be able to carve consistent with the outside ski. Actually, no, we want to be on the outside ski consistently, sorry. And hopefully this should equal or equate to us pushing carving. Tactical decision-making abilities. They have to be able to pull into their bag of tricks and use these technical outcomes to create tactical decisions. And as I said, keeping it simple, nothing new, but how we go about it is what's going to create the difference. That's going to be our important discussion to have. Our outcome, our process. Do they align? Are we putting them in the right order at the right time? Are they aligning? And so that's a lot of how we apply the LTAD, our philosophy with it at Tyee. I can chat with, and I have a couple nice little photos here. We can see now World Cup guys, shin pressure, yeah. Carving, yeah, I don't think they'd be wearing a World Cup bib if they weren't on Shadming. So yeah, I'm gonna say so. Outside ski shin pressure, yeah. And we can take those other terms we saw in the first frame: level shoulders, ankle flexion, athletic position. Sure, those are things we use to create our outcomes or to teach, to create. Are we on the outside ski? Are we maintaining shin pressure? Are we carving through the turn? Are we decision making? How does this line from Michaela here created through decision making skills? The gates above, the gates below dictate the line that they're intended to use, the technique they have in their bag of tricks that they pull out to be able to create that line, to be able to create the decision making abilities that they have. The performance on demand, performance through the process, which at that level is a pretty good process. And, I'm going to talk a little bit, this is going to be a little quicker, dry land, what we do at U16 with Tyee, because, there's obviously people in the room. Thank you, Andrew. You can stand up and take a bow. One of the top around that can, talk more science about the dry land and that. And especially when it really comes down to creating individual programs. But, the reality is at U16, what we do with Tyee is, their bodies are different. Every athlete is different. They're in such different stages of growing and maturing that, you could really have individual programs for all of them. But what we find basically is their knowledge of training is closer together, pretty similar, no matter how much their bodies are growing. Unless they've been working with a personal trainer and whatnot, their knowledge is the same. So in our philosophy of creating autonomy and self-coach athletes, expanding on that knowledge of them, and with them, even though their bodies are different, in skiing we can work on fundamentals all the way to the national team. In dryland, we can still work on fundamentals of energy systems with them all. They're still trainable. The fundamentals of training aerobic, they can still get an anaerobic result with some anaerobic training. Different athletes are going to get more training benefit or training effect from a little more increase depending on their levels of maturity, but the fundamentals are still there. They can all benefit. The fundamental of strength training, I'm sure, maybe Andrew can speak to this, but, even at the top levels, they're still working on their fundamental movement patterns for, preventing muscle imbalances and proper training, efficient training. So the education of this, when it comes down to it, is what we work on a lot, even though their bodies are different, but the education of the fundamentals on their energy systems, that will create to greater autonomy for each individual and their individual needs when they turn fists and they start understanding where they are in in their maturity, their body's maturity, and what specific needs they start to need to do on their own in their own training outside of scheduled dryland. And, just an example of how we do it on scheduled dryland. We have, on a basic week, we have 3 days a week group training. And, Tuesday we work skills acquisition with them. We do this through movement with circuits. So you're still getting some energy systems work, but we're really working the skills acquisition and at a time in the week when their nervous system isn't fatigued and they're able to learn new skills. And we do that through circuits and we do that through games. The next group training program, strength training through movement. And we do a lot of yoga. We have, fortunately, we have the ability to do a lot of yoga. So we do a lot of yoga, working on fundamental movement patterns, but strength through movement. We're also able to do a lot of bungee, elastic band work, doing squats with elastic band in that. So there's not a lot of load, but they're able to work on the fundamental movement patterns of them and still have an effect, a training effect as someone in the gym just doing squats. But it's still working the basic fundamental movement patterns for them. And then Saturdays, we do a little more basic energy system training, a little bit more on the aerobic side, with running more intervals and that and playing games. And that's just a basic how we structure our training in our standard weekly program outside of our dryland camps, where we're able to get a little more specific and add more trainings in there in that. And then the other days, depending on their knowledge, where their body needs their own individual training is a little more specific for what they need on the other days in between. So all in all, I hope, we've created some thought for everybody, some areas of discussion. But I think, what I hope from this is you have an ability to understand now, think about your intended outcomes and the use of the appropriate focuses to execute these intended outcomes, that we structure our programs instead of just going on the hill, but we keep it simple. We understand there's nothing new. The only new thing is how we put it together. We have an intended outcome. We put it together so the process gears towards our outcome. The athlete's results geared to our process. So we're all on board in the same system, and that we can all, talk to each other on the hill. We can learn what each other are doing and expand our own bag of tricks ourselves to put within those processes to create the outcomes that we're looking for. And that's how we do it at Tyee. And, to finish it off, I hope through this, talking about, that movie, A Flash of Genius, we remember there's nothing new. Ankle flexion, athletic position, separation. There's nothing new in this. We already know these terms, but it's the order. It is how we put these terms into use, how we use these ideas that you yourself can create your own flash of genius. So thanks, everybody. I hope you were able to think about this a little bit and got something about how you create your outcome in your process, and we can discuss it on the hill. I really appreciate your time, and can't wait to see you guys all again in person in a big group, and more importantly, out on the snow, and we can chat about it. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.